Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Don't Get a Therapist Yet. And the theme of today is that many children don't report abuse because they're scared, confused, or worried that they won't be believed. Your book, Vish, your book that you've written so amazingly, so beautiful, is called Say Something, Tell, Tell, Tell. And it helps children find their voice in a way that they can understand. So, a very warm welcome to you, Vish Patel, author of this amazing book. And Vish, can we start by just telling the audience a little bit more about yourself? Give them a
Sure,
bit of
yeah.
background.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for having me. But yes, so I have created this book, but a bit about me. So I'm a mum of three, and I am a podiatrist. And I've, along the way in my journey of life, accumulated lots of various skills. Photography is one of them. I also love cooking and absolutely love my little doggy. So that's something new that we've had in our family. And I just thought it's a part of me, a big part of me now and a part of the family. So yeah, that's a bit about me as a person. And then me as an author, which was another hobby I took up, but this was more with my children as well, and partly more to do with my background and my history.
Okay, that's fine. So I understand you've been battling a legal system for 10 years now, and I think it's come to some sort of final resolution.
Yes, 12 years of
12 years.
justice system, yeah, here in the UK. But finally, I have received my, well, I call it justice now, finally, and I'm able to speak freely, which is the biggest part of all of this, that I can now speak because I was always told innocent until proven guilty, and now I have a guilty verdict. I'm able to speak.
Okay. Vish, it sounds like an amazing story that you have there. And I think this is one of the reasons why you actually wanted to write this book. There's a connection there. Is that correct?
Definitely, yes, because when I had my history of child abuse, I felt that there was a lot of gaps, and it was very difficult for me to talk about this out in the community and to even to the most closest people around me. And I just felt if I had something like this book, it would have made it so much easier to bring up certain topics, when talking to even my parents. It was
Mm.
just something that culturally also we didn't speak about certain topics, sensitive ones as well, with males. Like I would never talk to my dad about certain things. And so I thought, if I had a book or something that would guide the conversations, this would have really been helpful.
Yes, I think you mentioned the reasons why you wrote this book, Say Something, Tell, 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 was, our modern world, the risks. You've already mentioned silence in families and a fear of speaking up. All those things, I think you say are the reasons why you wrote this book.
Definitely. I find that it's such a taboo I have had to face when going out into the community and trying to explain what things were and what had happened. And it felt like it wasn't just me. It felt like there was people all around from different generations where this crime had occurred, but silence had just covered it up. And that silence was eating away at people as well. But when I ask the question to many people and myself, why is it that you you did hold back for so long and you didn't say anything for so long? And that was the key thing because the crime went on for a long time. So I find that the answer to that it was because it was such a taboo. It was something that made me feel shameful and dirty. And that was because that's how the world perceived this crime more than even me trying to find safety. I thought I would just create silence with it.
You mentioned that you feel that child abuse is like a silent crime. So, why do you think so many people struggle to speak up about their experiences?
I think that it's our modern world as well, and the way that we have to fight for justice sometimes. You have to bring these things out in the open. So you have to speak about it, and you've got to find some courage and some strength and the right people, the right adults that will actually listen to you, or somebody that you can turn to. Now, generally, I find that that doesn't happen in our busy lives and our world because we feel that we're talking to our children all the time, but we're kind of getting through daily chores and their homework and their activities. And we do forget sometimes those personal questions, even just, how are you? Or, what happened today at school? Simple little questions that we just forget because we're in such a hurry all the time. I feel that we need to create that conversation pathway at such a young age so that it's always there, no matter what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, that's so important. And like you say, we can get sort of unintended focused on, have you done your chores? Have you done your homework? Where's your school uniform? All those kind of things, can't you? And I suppose what you're saying is, and I think also, I think a lot of people, if a child tells them, they just don't believe them. It's such a shocking thing to say, and in my experiences in working with people who've been had child abuse, they tell someone, but the person doesn't believe them, and that keeps the silence going, doesn't it? Because then they don't want to tell anybody else because they fear being shamed and lying.
Definitely. So
Mm.
often, and for myself as well, I found that children and myself are confused. We
Yeah.
feel that we're frightened already, but then we feel that there's manipulation, and then there's what are the consequences going to be if I was to say
Yeah.
something? And that's a real big
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
because, like you said, belief, and you want to go to somebody you trust, an adult that you know and feel comfortable with. But at the same time, it's that whole fear of belief. Because also, when you're in a situation and you are being in that difficult part of child abuse, your predator will say to you,
Mm.
"This is our secret,
Yeah. That's right.
and please don't tell anybody."
Yeah.
And so again, your fear builds up in you further. And it's just
Totally.
a horrible situation that any
Yeah.
child would have to face. But it's also difficult because the adults are not listening sometimes. So I feel that there's a lot of things that are involved with this. But hopefully, with my book, I'm hoping that people will use it as a tool because it's not just a storybook, although I've done so much research and we've got this lovely character in the book. But I feel that this should help adults and guide both the adults, the children, the workers, care workers, teachers, the adults around the children. It will teach them how to
Mm.
introduce these conversations.
Yeah. And I think just going to your point about the perpetrator sort of emotionally blackmailing the person, isn't it? And don't tell anybody, or if they tell somebody, you won't be liked, or your parents will reject you, or you'll get into big trouble, isn't it? It's again that emotional kind of hold that they have. So the poor child is terrified then of telling anyone, isn't it? It's you have to keep this a secret, and how difficult that is for the child. Just want to get back to your book because I understand that you've actually created this amazing little character, the wise golden owl. And can you tell me a little bit about the owl's role in the book and why you chose the owl?
Definitely. So the whole book was me and my children, and it became like a healing journey between me and the family because they were seeing the length it took for the justice system and me fighting the court systems with everything. They could see the toll it would take on me. And so they said, "Mama, why don't you try and focus some of this that's happened to you, but bring it in from your pain now, bring some purpose to it." And that was my eldest son who told me that, quite a wise one as well. I said to him, yes, I think that's a really good idea. And as I thought about it, the book just sprung to my mind because even as a child, I was always thinking, I wish I had a book. I had journals, I was always writing. And so it came quite naturally that it had to be something that was solid, that you could hold in your hand. Sorry, I'm going to bring it up here now, but
Yeah, please do.
hold in your hand and
Bit further,
yeah,
bit further.
yeah,
Can't see it.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
Lovely. Yeah.
yeah. So you can
Big little owl there.
yeah, and the amazing thing about this hour, as you asked, Wendy, sorry, it was that my daughter, she's 7 and she's been learning about animals at school. And she said to me, let's have an animal in the book. And I said, okay, what do you suggest? And she said, what about an owl? And I thought, okay, we can do an owl. And I said, any reasoning behind that? She said, oh, yes, Mama, because if I have an owl, they can turn their heads 360 degrees, which means if there's trouble coming from behind, us children can run away. And I just thought that's so lovely because it shows she's thinking about protection and safety. And also the fact that this owl has this amazing skill. I then read about the owl and I thought in so many cultures, like the Greek culture and lots of cultures, that it's such a wise, protective symbol. And full of knowledge. I just thought this is perfect. It would be the perfect animal to have in the book. But also, while I was researching owls, the one thing that I found fascinating, and I think teachers could tell children this when they are reading the book, is that if you lift up all those feathers on the owl, underneath are these long, 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 skinny legs, which is something I didn't know. I just thought they had these little perky little legs underneath all that fur. But yeah, they've got really long legs. So that's something children will learn, I think, from this.
And you're right, it is a sort of almost a cultural symbol of wisdom with those huge eyes. And it reminds me of the owl in Winnie the Pooh,
Oh,
which
yeah.
obviously a lot of children hopefully will still read as well.
Really? Yeah.
So it is a great, the big eyes looking and they can see well in the dark as well.
Yeah.
So it's a great, great symbol. I love it. And I'm sure that owl will. Does the owl have a name?
So that's the thing. In this book, I want the children to really be a part of it. So we have a QR code and it will eventually link to a website, which I'm still working on a little bit, but we'll get there. And when they link onto that, it will bring them to a website where there will be some more questions, answers, gratitude, competitions. And one of the competitions from this book will be that, can we name the golden owl? So we haven't got a name yet for this owl. And in book 1, we are just relating it as a golden owl.
Okay. Maybe if listeners want to, maybe they have got some suggestions they can just put in the notes, describe to the channel, and then let's have your feedback. Let's see if somebody can have children as well. See if
Yes.
we can have a name for the golden owl. At the moment, we just call it the golden owl.
Yes, we'll
Yeah.
have a vote afterwards because I want everyone to be involved.
Yeah.
That's something that children should have a safe space with this and feel comfortable around the character and the owl. And I really want it to be somewhere where they are feeling like they can voice themselves if they need to as well. And even in the book. So we have, shall I mention my magic square pages?
Yes, you can most certainly mention your magic square pages.
Okay, so Wendy, people that buy the book, they may turn around and say, well, hold on a minute, there's been a printing error and there's been nothing printed on these 2 pages here. But no, this was intentional for me because at the beginning of the book, each book, the child is going to write that this book belongs to, and they'll put their name there. So that means that now that this book belongs to them and it really means something special to them, they are going to use those magic squares whenever they like as an outlet. They can draw, they can scribble, they can write, they can stick something, they can tear up something, they can journal, they can write a poem, words, whatever they want. But later down the line, if that book is still intact and doesn't get destroyed by a perpetrator, then we can use that book in terms of for evidence if need be. So I thought that this would be something that, not just a book, Wendy, but I want to make it a movement.
Yeah.
So that people buy the book, write a beautiful, kind message inside it, lovely, kind words, and then gift this book to a child that they know, because it's not any old book now or any old toy. It's something that someone special gave to them. And so those times, even if it's someone in school saying something mean to them, they'll look at this book and think, I'm going to be brave, or I'm going to speak up, or I'm going to tell the teacher.
Yeah, giving them the voice, giving
Yeah.
them their voice and everything like that. And you have a lovely quote. It says, instead of trauma continuing through the generations, we want healing to continue through the generations. And I think part of your process is involving your children in the process of creating this book. And that's a lovely quote, I think, the way you involved your children, and you want them to be empowered and know what this is about, and that so that they feel confident to speak up if they ever have anything that they are concerned about.
Yeah. So the book came about because I felt that just transforming this concept of child abuse between generations was a huge thing. Because if we don't do that, it's going to carry on as being a horrible, dirty, shameful crime that people will not speak about and will take to their graves with them. And this is why we don't hear in statistics as well the full stories and the full numbers of what's happening in this crime, because there's so many people that will not get voiced or may not even get to the court system. But what I would like to do is, generally, this sort of crime happens with an adult that knows the child or is around the child often. And so if we're able to educate the children in the right way, then they're not going to be fearful. And the minute something happens, they're not going to feel disgusted about it. And they're going to say something. And that's all we need. We just need everyone to be open about this. I mean, there's worse things on Netflix and on television and than there are in, we need to tell them what's out there in the real world. And I think that it's so important we do it when they're little and they know the boundaries around them as well, and their body and things.
And to protect them from further abuse and further damage, which then goes into adulthood and, just creates a vicious circle of abuse and shame, like you say, and how much it can affect your life in all kinds of ways. You're talking about a really good process of prevention, aren't you? Which is what
Yes, I
is
am.
so needed, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But this is the great big thing. The tool of the book is to create awareness. So as long as we have knowledge and we have awareness, then that silence will be broken. And then predators will think twice before they try to commit a crime. And it will also mean that those that are being held in silence right now and are being abused right now can actually come out and say, no, help me. It's also something that we're not thinking about, but it's happening around us daily, and globally. So we just need people to be able to speak without feeling like the whole world's going to make them feel dirty and horrible and
Absolutely.
wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody buys this book, what do you hope happens after they close the final page? What are you hoping for, Vish?
So I'm hoping that this isn't just a one-off book that you read once and then you pop it on your shelf and that's it. It's a book, when you read the story, it's really gently encouraging children through the story and this character. So I just want to go to the character very quickly, Wendy.
Yeah.
It's a gender neutral character, which I
Okay.
did a lot of research for. And I would like to tell everyone the way I came about this character. So my son, Leo, who's 12, he's amazing with art, and he started the journey with me to start illustrating pages for the book. And while we were doing that, he came across, he said to me, right, we'll have characters. And he did like a number of different characters. I haven't got them with me now. And then I went to a classroom of children and I just held up these characters and I just asked people, who do you think this is? And who do you think this is? And the children were about 30 or 32 children in a class. And when I held this character up, immediately this girl put her hand up. She went, "It's me." And then another boy sitting on the carpet turned around and said, "No, it's me." And the two of them looked at each other to give each other like a funny stare as to say, "Well, no." And I thought, that's it. That's our character. And then we named the character. We're trying to name this character and find something that would help be gender neutral with meaning. And we got to the name Emmy, E-M-I, because if you take out the E, you have me. And if you take out the me, you have I. So I felt that this was a character where it was me, I, and Emmy. And I thought this could relate to lots of people as themselves. Children, sorry, as themselves.
Yeah. It's lovely, and it just shows you the thought that you went into it, Vish, to sort of create, the character that was most appealing to people as well. And it sounds lovely, and of course, it's really important we don't assume that a male or female. Child abuse affects both boys and girls, obviously, as well. So I'm glad it appeals to both, because that's really important. The shame can be even worse sometimes in boys than it can be in girls, but it's great that you're encouraging both sexes to
I'd
get
like
involved.
to
Yeah.
mention on that, Wendy, definitely, where you say boys. Now, you're right, definitely, but you won't hear of those stories
No,
often because it's a much shameful thing for them.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
when I talk
exactly.
about shame, there are different levels as well in this. And for a woman, it comes also with their ethnicity, culture, religion, and background, and all these things affect it, but also gender. When it's a male and we're living in can I quote it as man's world, all the scriptures are written by men, and we kind of have this kind of thing that the men are superior sometimes. I'm not going to go into that more at all, but I'm going to just say that when they are going through any abuse as a child, that's it. They've kind of grow up into teenagers, and at around, the statistics are at around 17 to 19, a lot of them will commit suicide, and you won't hear of their stories. And that's really saddening to hear, because why should they not be able to talk about this crime? It happens to both genders.
Yeah.
It's no different. It really isn't. It's hard to discuss regardless of what gender, but the men should really have less circles of communication around them as well. And it's something that hits their ego as well. And so they will not discuss it. And then they go down that rat hole of they will start doing, drugs or gambling or smoking, and they become homeless and they lose identity and character. So it strips them of a lot of things, and you don't hear of it. Very few stories will come out in the open for the men. So I feel strongly there, and that's why it was so important. I wanted this to be a gender neutral character. I too have two boys and a girl, and so it's child abuse. It doesn't look at the gender. It really doesn't. It just looks at, these people that want to get near children.
And I think the other problem with speaking out is that the child often feels ashamed, and they blame themselves sometimes, don't they? They think it's their fault, and like you say, the level of shame that they feel, or they're made to feel it's their fault, or they're made to feel that they've led the person along as well. So again, it's breaking that silence, and you're so right again about the implications of this early sexual child abuse is so important to address early on, isn't it? So, while they can still talk, if it's repressed, like you say, and they just try to get rid of that shame through all the things you've mentioned, and to actually have that person destroyed, it's heartbreaking, isn't it? Absolutely heartbreaking.
It doesn't just break that person, though. It breaks the people,
Family.
that person as well.
Yeah.
It does. And it breaks that person in a way that an adult takes over choice and control of a child's actual mental kind of processing, so that Children don't take any decisions as they grow up after they've been through child abuse. They kind of follow the herd, or you say sit and they sit, or that you say stand and they stand. And I'm saying this through my personal experiences because I was never able to even make a decision on what clothing I wanted to wear. And so in this book, throughout the book, Emmy and the children in the book all have odd socks on. And that was something I wanted to bring out in the book, to say that on a Friday, globally, every school, whether it's public or private, parents to allow the children to make the decision to wear their own socks. So you can see here, they're wearing their own socks there. And these socks don't go into the school brochures. But in the morning on a Friday, that child has made a decision that empowered them, and they can wear whatever socks they like. And that's their decision. They didn't decide what they're going to have for breakfast. Mum's already put that on the table. They didn't decide how they're getting to school because they're getting driven there. And they didn't get to decide what's in their packed lunchbox because it's already been made for them. But they will get to decide the pair of socks that they put on their feet. And that's not going to affect anyone. It's not going to affect their studying. You know, it's something so simple. In fact, when I'm doing the laundry, I don't even have to match the socks up now. It gets lost in the machine or someone eats it. It doesn't matter.
It's a nice symbolism, isn't it? There's a message there that people can take on board, and like you say, that we have days for special days to celebrate certain charities, something like that. You know, it's sort of like this is another way you can sort of bring the awareness into people's lives. I love that.
Yeah.
So
Choice as well, because children do need to make decisions.
definitely, yeah,
themselves. And this
absolutely.
one is a small one, but I mean, the parents, you can grow that. You can make it bigger in your own families.
Yes.
We have Fun Fridays as a family, and on Fun Fridays after school, we have a dessert. So that's our Fun Friday treat.
Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it? That's lovely. So I think you want your movement to be global, don't you? You really want this message to go out. And what change would you hope to see in the next generation of children now? What is the movement that you're hoping to see?
So I'm hoping that through this, we can change some lives. For me, the biggest thing for this is that if we create a channel of communication very early on with the kids, and I know that we say that there's safeguarding in schools and things, but I think there can always be more.
Yeah.
And it can be dealt with within the family. It doesn't have to be done at school because, like I'm saying, these things happen within communities. So it'd be nice if we can start prevention by creating an awareness amongst different communities, religions, different ethnicities, because I find that as I've traveled for my work, that it's happening in all different cultures around the world, and literally decades and decades of this crime going on. So I have elderly people that tell me that this happened to them. It was very common and they just didn't tell anybody. And they said to me, actually, Vish, you're the first person I'm ever telling.
My
And I
gosh.
just think, wow, you've never told anyone.
Yeah.
And one of them, and I think, well, she said, I've only ever told my sister, who told me that I was making it all up. So that was also, where we mentioned disbelief, and or that you put a barrier up and you shut down and you say, no, it's not happened. I didn't hear that.
I think you also make the point about all people and all cultures. And sometimes, people say an elderly person, you think, people hear it and think, oh my God, how could that happen to a person so long ago? But it did, and it does. And so I suppose the message is not just for little children, but also for other people who perhaps have been holding this pain and this shame, this secret for so long. It also might encourage other people to start to self-disclose and to share and to get that off their chest and to feel heard and supported and validated. It might be too late to actually do anything about the perpetrator. It might be okay, but there's something about being heard and listened to. That's very much in your message, I feel, Vish, isn't it? It's being listened to.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
feel that it doesn't, I'm not saying everyone has to go and report it in the police stations, and, these people may not be alive anymore. It could be many different circumstances. But what I'm saying is if we start to discuss the topic, then the awareness and this horrible taboo and darkness that surrounds it, we can lift away as a global nation. We can just make it much easier for people to discuss. Also, by doing that, I feel that we're going to completely reduce these statistics of this crime completely, drastically, because even through selling this book and proceeds will go towards preventing child abuse, I want to make sure that it's prevention, but we keep on doing something for it and keep it there. Like when, Wendy, I'm going to mention AIDS. When the word AIDS came out, people, I mean, even in my own family, if we were somewhere and someone mentioned the word or sneeze, my mum would lift my hand and we would walk out of the room. It was something that she didn't know anything about. So she thought you could catch it from just sneezing and being in that room. But it wasn't till now we can say AIDS and we can be at a dinner table and we'll talk about it freely and no one will flinch. Whereas when I talk about child abuse, even at a dinner table, there are some generations of, and some men also, that will look down and won't look at me anymore. There'll be people that will just go quiet. And then there'll be people that might nod their heads, but no one will actually say a word. It'll just be me talking.
Yes, I suppose it's the whole education about
Mhm.
how to respond if somebody does disclose. And most people, like you say, really don't know what to say. So they might say nothing because they're just too, it's too overpowering. What do you say to that? Because it's so deep and so shocking. It's a hard thing to know how to react. So again, it's another level of education there, isn't it? About listening and validating as well. So this phrase, the name of the book, say something, tell. What does that mean to you, truly mean to you after everything you've gone through, Vish?
So when I was silenced when I was a child by my perpetrator, I couldn't speak. So I couldn't say anything. Then I did open up. And as we said, I told a parent and I wasn't believed. I was told that I was lying and it's not true because the grooming had not just happened with me, but it happened with my parents and people that were close to me as well. And they trusted this adult. And so there was a lot of difficulty there. But once I was told by the parent, no, it's not true, I stopped speaking again. So I wouldn't say anything again. And so that silenced me once more. Then I went to years later when I had some courage and bravery. Hence, I had to put that into the book that you do need so much courage, so much bravery. And you really have to kind of tunnel vision and not look at what other people might judge you with or what other people will say to you or think of you. And you go to the police and you make a statement. And I think, okay, now I'm free. But no, because the justice system says that you can't speak because now it's innocent until proven guilty. So again, I'm silenced and I can't say anything again. To say something, tell was so powerful when I needed to look for a title because throughout this book, it was just about we need to say something. We need to tell. And in my language, Gujarati, we say bolo, 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 which means say, tell. And I just thought that is what I want people to do. I want people to bolo. I want them to speak. I want them to tell their history and their stories so that there's no longer shame attached to this.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great title. And I really hope people reach out and actually get the book for their children, or again, if they're in any profession where they feel there needs to be more education, and use it in the schools or in the NHS. There's lots of places where this book could be really useful.
Yes, there is. Schools can use it, teachers, community centres, Girl Guides, Cubs, Scouts, Brownies, anywhere. Anywhere that you have a group of children, you can sit down and pull this book out and start discussing with them. And honestly, some of the conversations I've also had with children when reading this book, it's so lovely because you see purity in them. and you see the innocence in them. And it's glorious that no adult actually should ever have the right to destroy that ever. It's not in their hands to take over that at all.
I think by creating a story, a book that's relatable, and I think you've spent a lot of time and energy getting that story right and all the illustrations, everything like that. That is such a profound way of communicating to children, isn't it? It's a safe way to talk about a very difficult subject. If you just ask them, they'll probably just clam up and not speak, but they can talk about the story and about how it's impacted them as well.
Yeah.
So Vish, thank.
Sorry, I was just going to say the only thing here now, I want to change lives and I want to make sure that the children of the world are safe. So I really want everyone to listen and help and support and buy the book. It's available on Amazon.
Yep.
You know, if they could support this cause, we can really get some movement done and something good can come out of it. And the children that are suffering don't need to suffer anymore. And the children that aren't suffering don't need to ever go down that road ever if we educate them now. So I really hope that they can speak up. But the other thing, I want people adults to understand that one thing is so important. We have 2 ears and just one mouth. And so the one thing I'm also trying hard to do is listen more. We really have to listen more and just speak a little bit less, because sometimes they're trying to tell us something and we're just talking and talking and they don't get it out. But also, once we have listened to them, in this book, there are some tools in there. And at the last point, I'd just like to read it, Wendy, and it is the first time a child opens up to you is a moment of trust. How you handle it will shape whether they'll ever come to you again. And that's so important because, like I said, when I went out and spoke to somebody that I trusted, I wasn't believed. And that was it. I didn't speak for years and years and years. And I held that in me for far too long. So
It's so true, Vish. I so agree with that as well. And it's a very important point. Even if it's not, the abuse, even if it is something bad happening at school or it's being bullied, it's about, yeah, I believe my child. That what reason would there be, or even if you're a parent, a teacher, why would that person not tell you the truth as well? So I really get that about listening and validating the first time, so you get that response right. It's a really good point. Yeah. So just for the viewers and the listeners, the link will be available in the show notes. So if you subscribe to the channel, you can access the show notes and you can just download the link from there as well. Or you can just go to Amazon and look for that title, Say Something, Tell, and it will come up as well. So there's two ways of getting the book. So I do hope people think it will be a very useful tool and also, a very interesting story to actually read to your children as well. It's still a story, isn't it? It's still an important story.
Oh, it is. And also, once you read the book, you'll understand it's not the only book. There'll be more books to follow. So
Yep.
when these adventures continue, there will be more books to come with different types of topics that I'll cover in them, all to do with safety and issues that have affected me. And if, the way I would love to address it with children, but all children learn differently as well. And I just want to say one last thing, Wendy. In my community, I've got friends of mine my age, but when it comes to their children doing something wrong, they get scolded so much. And it's just like, well, you have to take a step back, listen, and then look at the whole picture before you actually tell them anything, really. So the listening is super, super key, because they won't come back. And I've seen it with my friends, their children don't want to talk to them anymore.
Yeah. Again, it's a simple but very powerful message. Yeah. For all of us to sort of take that on board as adults. Yeah. Very, very good. So everybody, thank you so much, Vish, for being a guest on my show and for sharing such an important message in such a wonderful way. So thank you for that. I really hope the very best for your movement, really, isn't it? Your passion and your movements. And so again, if somebody wants to buy the book, you just go to the link on the show notes or go to Amazon.
Thank you so much, Wendy.
It's been
I
a great
can't
pleasure.
thank you enough. I'm so blessed that you've had me on the show and you've done this for the book as well and for the children. So I really appreciate it and I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you.
Oh, yes, yes, that for sure. Can't forget that, can we, Wendy?
Thank you.